Amigos, your relationship needs support. And when I think back to the beginning years of my marriage, where my husband and I were having the most amount of arguments and the least amount of sex, we needed help overcoming the number one issue in our relationship. And to do that, we needed to do something radically different than what we were already trying. You see, even dramatically different than what the generations before us were doing. And that support came in the form of marriage therapy. Marriage therapy was the game changer for my relationship. It allowed my partner and I to finally take a step back and have somebody else walk us through what was actually going on. And eventually we realized that most of the issues that we had with each other had actually nothing to do with the other person, but more so to do with our own unhealed trauma and our own things that we hadn't taken the time to process, but somehow was still showing up in our marriage. And that's why I love BetterHelp. You see, BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a large range of issues. To get started, you just have to answer a couple of questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however way you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or even a video call. You can even message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can totally switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from an in-office therapy, but with a therapist that is custom picked just for you. More scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp by going to my link, betterhelp.com/Karina F. Daves. That's BetterHelp, BETTER, help.com/Karina, F as in Frank, Daves. The link to this coupon is right here in my show notes. Amigos, at this point, you've tried it all in your relationship and nothing is working. You don't have anything to lose by asking for the support you know you need in the form of therapy. And what a better way to do that than with BetterHelp. Coming up on the Relationships You Understand podcast. So it's one thing to have hidden accounts. It's another thing to be secretive about your debt. Again, it's the same of like, why are you secretive about this debt? You're secretive about this debt because you're also ashamed of it, right? You feel embarrassed. You don't want to be judged. You feel like, especially if your partner disapproves of the things that you're spending money on, you don't necessarily want to show them your debt. And so you keep your debt a secret. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Karina F. Daves, relationship coach and speaker, where I help women stop arguing with their partners so that they can have more sex. Because who doesn't want to have more sex? One of the biggest things that women struggle with is a lack of satisfaction in their relationship. It's our best kept secret. And I know this because it used to be me. You see, I was a checklist human obsessed with the many achievements we're pressed to accomplish. Getting degrees, getting married, having children, buying a home. And after all it was achieved, I still felt empty inside. And so I looked to my partner to fulfill me. And this is when the arguing started in my marriage. It wasn't until I stopped blaming my marriage and finally decided to take a deeper look into myself, to work on my own need for control, my perfectionism, and to work on my own unhealed trauma, that I realized in order for my marriage to be better, it required a better me. Join me each week where I will be your personal relationship expert, coaching you through unpacking and processing your identity, values, and standards to resolve the number one conflict in your relationship, because a better relationship begins with a better you. Whether you're deep in your marriage or on the road to one, I will help you reflect on who you are, both in your partnership and outside of it. I know so many of us are struggling with this in such a private way, but believe me, a better relationship is possible, but it also starts with you. Are you willing to do the work? Welcome to Relationships You Understand? If you're loving this podcast and enjoying the juicy relationship gems, then head over to follow me on my socials at Karina F. Daves on Instagram and TikTok.
Head over to my website, karinafdaves.com, and subscribe to my newsletter, Release Your Relationship, where I share weekly relationship advice on how to overcome the number one issue in your relationship. If you're really enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or even Spotify. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and share it with all of your amigos. Reviews are such a personal way to hear your voice and interact with our community. Thanks so much for listening. And now, the Relationships You Understand podcast.
Amigos, buenos dias, ¿cómo están? Welcome back to Relationships You Understand. This podcast is hosted by me, Karina F. Taves, relationship expert, speaker, and podcast host of this dope podcast that has been ordained and blessed by God. I am not, I guess I'm not feeling like under the weather, but today we're going to continue our series called Silent Cheating Series, Financial Cheating. I thought that it would be beneficial before we get into it to share just an update of where I'm at emotionally and mentally very quickly, because I know that we all have to get somewhere, but I hope that what I share helps and blesses somebody, right? Um, I visited 3 different countries in a matter of 3 weeks with different time zones. And I never really realized how long it really takes to recover from that. And so in September, I visited Bangkok, uh, Japan, and Brazil. And I had a week in between them. But when I got back, um, it took me a really long time to adjust. Originally, I thought the adjustment was the time, but the adjustment was also emotional, in the sense that life doesn't stop, right? And so when I came back, I had to get back into the swing of things, of being a mom, of being a wife, of being here for my household, my 9 to 5, my business. And it wasn't easy. And I pushed through. And I think plenty of times we push through thinking that our body and our mind will just adjust. And I've been waiting for that adjustment since the beginning of October. And I know it's not that long, but it hasn't occurred. It just festered. And this weekend, I just decided to surrender and give it to God, because a lot of the weight that we carry isn't meant for us to carry. And I think that we carry it for a lot longer than we need to. So for anybody carrying a lot of burden today, feeling just the weight of the world, feeling what you feel, I want you to know that you're not meant to carry that burden. And here's the thing. No matter what I did, a massage, um, sleeping, relaxing, that burden came with me. And today I just decided to give it up. I think that there are so many roles that God gives us, and our innate human behavior is to be perfect at all of them. But we're not. And so we fail. Duh. So I hope this speaks to someone. All right, let's get into the Silent Cheating series, Financial Cheating. So last week we started this series, and the purpose of this series is to bring to light other ways that we can cheat on our spouse unknowingly. And so when it comes to financial cheating, obviously that's with money. And I want to highlight three areas in which you may be yourself financially cheating and not even know it, right? And silently cheating. And so the first is by having hidden accounts, secret accounts that you have away from your spouse. And some of the reasons why we have a lot of these hidden accounts are due to shame, are due to guilt, are due to you feel restricted by your partner. You just want to avoid a lot of conflict. You feel like there are a lot of money expectations that you necessarily can't um, meet. And so, what do? You have hidden spending accounts or just secret accounts that you don't share with your partner. And what that does is over time, it's going to impact your relationship in a way that it impacts a lot of conflict. It borderline feels like betrayal once they find these accounts, by the way. And it makes you both feel out of the loop of one another, right? I always say that, like, especially with any type of secret, you got to tell yourself if you're willing to sleep and lay in bed with this person, then you should be able to be open and transparent with them. And that's the same with money, right? I'm not going to get into sharing the money. Okay. I know that everybody has different beliefs about that. Um, for me in my house, we serve the Lord. I just felt like saying that because it's what people say. But for me in our house, our accounts are all shared. We share all of our money. Um, but they, but we have very specific things that these money go to, and there are a lot of conversations that happen about our money constantly. But again, you got to understand that we were also somebody that got married at 25 years old. So we were very broke when we got married. It's very different. So again, I'm not talking about sharing your money. I'm talking about being open about your money. Okay. So the one way that you financially or that you secretly cheat with your finances is you have hidden accounts. And what you need when you do have secret accounts is you need financial transparency. You need to be open about the fact that this is what I have. This is what you have. This is how I'm saving for retirement. How would you like to save for retirement? I would like to spend, I don't know, $3,000 on brand new tints and tires, or I would like to spend, $3,000 on a girls' trip. Well, I would like to spend all of this. And I actually have an episode which we can link here in the show notes called How to Stop Arguing About Money and Have More Sex. And a lot of that has to do with being financially open and transparent. The second way that you're silently cheating on your partner when it comes to money is debt secrecy. So it's one thing to have hidden accounts, it's another thing to be secretive about your debt. Again, it's the same of like, why are you secretive about this debt? You're secretive about this debt because you're also ashamed of it, right? You feel embarrassed. You don't want to be judged. You feel like, especially if your partner disapproves of the things that you're spending money on, you don't necessarily want to show them your debt. And so you keep your debt a secret. Need I remind you that the main reason why you are so secretive when it comes to your money is because you and your partner do not value money in the same way. What I want you to understand is that you and your partner grew up believing and being taught very different things about money. Y'all watched money being spent and saved very differently. And so when you get married, you are essentially bringing together two different types of money values. And so keeping these things a secret, your debt a secret, your financial secret accounts, all of that hidden doesn't benefit anybody. Instead, it makes the both of you grow further and further apart from each other. And it just starts with money. Then it starts with values on parenting. Then it starts with values on intimacy. Then it starts with values on careers and goals. You want to start creating what I call a marriage gap in your relationship. Start keeping things a secret and hidden from each other and watch the snowball effect of gaps be creating in your relationship from just one thing to five things. to then 10 things, to then waking up one day and feeling like the person that you look over to is a complete stranger to you because y'all have not been aligned on many things that you both value for a very long time. It starts with just one thing. You understand me? When it comes to secrecy with your debt, again, you fear being judged, and so you keep it a secret. How this impacts your relationship is that it impacts the future things that you will want to buy, whether that be a house, whether that be a car, whatever the case is, it starts to impact the things that you want to purchase in the future. You understand? And what I want you to start having is, again, financial, transparent conversations about what you both value. You need to talk about it, okay? And this is exactly what I coach my clients through, the very uncomfortable conversations, because I know that you need to talk about it, but the next question you have is, how do I talk about it? Some of those initial conversations, you're going to have to be okay feeling uncomfortable. Some of those initial conversations, you fantasize about having them in a way that nobody gets upset and that there's no, judgment, or there's no people being, you know, mad at each other. That is a fantasy. That isn't initially going to happen in the beginning. It's just not, because both of you are coming from this place of hiding or from this place of keeping things to yourself. You understand?
Hola, amiga. Here's the thing. You've mastered everything else in your life but your relationship. You and your partner are not as intimate as you used to be. You are both stuck in this awful cycle of arguing that starts with bickering and ends with your routine blowups every few months. Every single time that you bring up an issue looking to resolve it, they feel like you're complaining, and then you begin to distance yourself. You feel like you're living with a roommate rather than your life partner. Your relationship, amiga, needs comprehension. Comprehension allows you and your partner to forgive each other quicker. Comprehension allows you and your partner to prioritize each other again. Comprehension is the very thing that will allow you both to give each other the space you need during those blowups. It stops the cycle of arguing. In my private one-on-one coaching program, I help women just like you come up with the exact communication strategies to begin to comprehend their partners and have their partners comprehend them. I will tell you the issues about your relationship that will take your couples therapist 6 months to tell you in just the very first session. It only takes one person in the relationship to do the work for there to be any progress. Either way, you will grow, and that is what is important. Through a mixture of one-on-one coaching, relationship framework, and plenty of aha moments, you'll finally be able to understand your triggers more deeply and decrease the time you spend arguing with your partner. You'll become more of an active listener versus being offended all the time. I want to help you stop arguing on the way to date night and actually have energy for post-date night activities, if you know what I mean. I'm on a mission to show women like you how to talk to their partners in a way that moves the needle for your relationship rather than leaving you stuck in this toxic cycle of arguing. I know many of us are struggling with this in such a private way, but believe me, a better relationship is possible, but it begins with you. So let's work together. I want to help you. Go to the link in the podcast notes to book a sales call where we'll talk about everything that's happened so far, what you've tried, and how I can help. I can't wait to work with you to get you and your partner to stop arguing and have more sex. I can't wait to meet you.
The third type of way that you are secretly cheating on your partner or silently cheating on your partner when it comes to finances is, this is not for everybody, but I have an example about this from one of my clients, is you use money to manipulate each other, to control each other. And how that works is, or the reason why you do it is because there's a need for power. There's a desire for control. And so you need to feel like your partner is dependent on you. And so you use money to control each other. That's a way of silently cheating on each other. You understand? Because there's no free will at that point. And what this does is that it impacts the relationship dynamic with one another. It makes one of you guys feel trapped, right? it creates this loss of autonomy, this loss of freedom with one another. And again, the main thing I want you to understand here is there needs to be a shared decision making process in your relationship when it comes to money. There needs to be an opportunity to be transparent with one another, to budget together, to look at your money with one another. And the thing about it is that we can sit here and joke around all day about how we hide Amazon purchases from each other and how we, tell the UPS person to hide our packages because we don't want our partner finding out. What's the big deal? I want you to ask yourself, what's the big deal? What's the big deal with telling your partner what you're spending your money on? Oh, I don't want them to get upset with me. Okay, so you're seeing them get upset with you as an opportunity for you to hide something rather than an opportunity for you to talk about what you value, right? I have, let me tell you something. I have probably over $50,000 car sitting in my garage, what a race car, right? That I don't necessarily know or understand every single purchase that my husband made. He didn't like run through every single purchase with me, but I know that he worked hard for it. I know that he is a doctor of cars and engines, and I appreciate that. I know that when he started the process, we had a very open conversation about how that hobby could not hurt our family. And how could we make his dream possible, his goal possible, right? Of something he wanted for himself, not hurt our family. How could we make that work? And so we made a plan. He would work nights, certain nights, and he would work certain weekends to fund that vehicle. We made a plan. Was it uncomfortable? Of course. Do I gag and throw up a little bit in my mouth when I see how expensive certain things are? Of course. Does it hurt our family? No, right? Same thing when I say I want to go on a girls trip. Okay. How are you making that happen? This and this and this. And sometimes a lot of these conversations are, I need a little more. Is there any way that our savings could support me in this? Is there any way that we have a little bit left over so I could do this? Yeah, sure. Let's plan for it. If that's what you need, let's plan for it. I'm really tired. I need to take the day off. Is it possible I can take this day off and we could plan for it financially? Of course. Of course. These are the conversations that you're not having and avoiding. And what you don't realize is that these are the very conversations that you need to have in order to become a unit, in order to become closer to one another, in order to become better in your marriage. You understand? You want to be better in your marriage? Have these uncomfortable conversations and stop hiding these things from one another. It's not doing you any good. Okay, I had a question and then I'm going to pray for you. Why are women so over Detroit Red? Why are women so overly concerned about a man's money? You guys are only concerned about money. Oh, great question. So this podcast is not about being overly concerned about just a man's money. We're talking about different ways in a relationship, in a marriage where you should be transparent about your finances because your finances essentially are part of the building blocks of your future goals and the things that you currently have, like your house, if you have kids or certain things, or you're paying bills and things of that nature. So if you're having shared expenses, then you should probably talk about your money, or you should talk about your money. So Detroit Red, I hope that answered your question. All right. Essentially, what I want you to understand is that trust isn't something that's built through words. Again, trust isn't something that's built through words. Trust is something that is built over time through actions. And those actions are having transparency and honesty and respect with one another. Okay. I want you to ask yourself right now, or one of the things you're asking yourself right now is, well, where do I start? You need to start having conversations about things like your spending habits, your financial goals, and being able to check in with each other regularly. And if you figure out that these aren't conversations that after time you've tried to have with one another and you need support, I want to work with you on that. Okay. Go to link in my bio and book a sales call. This is exactly what I help my clients with. Through our conversations, especially my couples who are trying to do stuff whether it's fun stuff or whether it's build a life together and wanting each other to really be on the same page with one another. This is exactly what I do. And I have so many examples in my mind, but I literally have to go and get my kids ready for school. So the takeaway I want you to leave with today is I want you to keep investing in what matters. Keep investing in what matters, and your marriage matters. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick, really example, okay? So I'm working with a couple in which they are financially amazing. Financially amazing. They both work. But one partner feels like the other one doesn't necessarily make themselves involved in the things like budget or habits or understanding the money. And it makes the one partner feel some type of way. And so one of the things that we're working on is one, figuring out why the partner hasn't taken that position. Two, does the partner desire to take that position and why? And three, now coaching them through how they can work as a unit rather than feeling like now all the weight is on them. Okay? It's a process, but I want you to know that it's possible. All right. Let me pray for you. Father God, I thank you so much for this episode. I thank you so much for our hearts to be open and transparent with each other in ways that I can only imagine were not possible decades ago. Now having the access to the internet and social media and being able to connect with one another. I ask that anybody that's listening right now that's going through any financial situations or burdens or debt, I ask that you allow them to be honest with each other and remind them that even though it's scary, that it's exactly what you want them, and that the things that are scary are sometimes the things that we must do in order to open up the doors of unknown heavens, Lord, instead of remaining stuck in our known hell. I thank you so much for the relationships that you have put together. And for those that are listening that are tired in their relationship, remind them that there's purpose in them. Remind them that it is important to seek the purpose in them and important to understand the value of them rather than constantly being annoyed at them. Lord, would you refresh our hearts and change our hearts and change us into people that are more so open and progressive rather than remaining stagnant and believing the enemy's lies. I thank you so much for your word, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. Again, listen, if right now you're at a point in your life where you're like, I really need to start having these conversations with my partner, I just don't know how because I feel like we'll just blow up on one another, we need to work together. Okay. Go to the link in my bio and book a sales call with me. I've opened up about 5 slots for November to work with me, and I want you to have one of them. All right. And if you have any questions about anything, your relationship, this podcast episode, or working with me, send me a DM. Okay. I know that it can seem scary. I've heard from a lot of people, it can seem scary just being on the social media platform and feeling like people are not accessible. But I promise you that those of us, and I'm including myself in this pocket, that are here to serve, make ourselves accessible to serve. So send me a DM, send me a signal, send me something. My name's Karina F. Daves. I'm a relationship expert, speaker, and host of this dope podcast, Relationships You Understand. Thank you so much for coming back for another week. All right. I love you so much. Bye.
If you're loving this podcast and enjoying the juicy relationship gems, then head over to follow me on my socials at Karina F. Daves on Instagram and TikTok. Head over to my website, Karina F. Daves, and subscribe to my newsletter, Release Your Relationship, where I share weekly relationship advice on how to overcome the #1 relationship issue. If you're really enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and share it with all of your amigos. Reviews are such a personal way to hear your voice and interact with our community. Thanks so much for listening to the show, and can't wait to have you back again. I love you so much.